if I kind of step back and look at this whole what role does influencer marketing play in this whole space of brand building. I think in the end for marketeers like myself and most of the marketeers, the key thing is what gets you to deliver your brand objective. And I think for us at Mondelez, with our portfolio of brands, we're looking more for things like, for a brand like Cadbury, I'm more looking at engagement. I'm more looking at how are we able to connect emotionally with the consumers, and to your point, virality, is an important kind of piece over there. So that's most important. And otherwise, totally agnostic to how we get it, right? Like I'm not a TV company, I'm not a YouTube. Right. For me, it's how do we get there is most critical. And this whole, my personal belief is that influencer marketing can play a big role because it is very credible, right? When the storytelling is coming from somebody who has credibility in that space, somebody who is known. I think in the end it's probably a balance of the two. But we are wanting to learn a lot of what we can do with influencer marketing, making sure that there is a lot of data and science behind our decision making. Now to your question on virality, I think that's very important. And what we have seen is even not all our communication become viral. There's some that do much better than others, and we have seen the quality of content, the human insight, just to have the right level of branding. Anything that is over branded then go viral. And that would be one of my invitations to the creators and to the influencers on how do we push that extra mile. Because if everything looks the same, it may not have the same impact when it comes to engagement and virality. How do we push that extra mile in getting to something that can truly become viral, that goes everywhere? And I am willing to have only a little branding if I can get there. Because again, we're not looking for saliency, we're looking for engagement.
Uh, Thanks for that. In a sense, in fact, this going back to tools, and this was a kind of a leading question by the way from me, because there is so one of the things I think my personal belief is brands are not in the business of going viral. If you do, that's great, but you're in the business of saying, hey, can I engineer my campaigns to really punch above their weight every single time? Now, typically, there are always variations, but you've seen influencers in general get, whatever, 1 to 5 to 6% of their engagement, which means also, typically, if you're an influencer with 100,000 followers, you'd probably get anything between 8 to 20,000 views on a particular organic reel. But nowadays, there's a lot of sciencing possible. Imagine if for a big campaign, you had the next 500 influencers who are all micro influencers below 50,000 followers from a base of maybe 1.8 million influencers at least on our tech. And we are able to figure out 10,000 influencers or 500 influencers who are below 50K but can get more than 50K views consistently as per their historical data. So using historical prediction means we've seen some of these being done. In fact, we have a client, Global Beast. It's a house of brands, and they have multiple there. In fact, $1 billion from now, and they've been able to do the same science you're talking about, which is to see. Sometimes I just need the views in a category to see a certain visibility, and I see a delta on my sales on Amazon. So they've been able to science that. And the other bit, in terms of, I think, staying to a topic of separating the chaff from the wheat, there is an insightful way that technologies can be used is, imagine being able to predict the future influences in any part of the world, which is to say, hey, what if a platform like us would tell you who are the 7,000 influencers in India out of a database of 10 million, or who have doubled their follower base with real followers in the last 6 months. So suddenly you have a match that, look, if I start working with these brand new upcoming influencers who are, one is punching above their weight, growing consistently, then you kind of have a mathematics that, let's say, 70% confidence, if they grow by another 70% in the 6 months, I'm able to lock in their first brand deals, bring them onto the table. So things is to say who are the real influences that we can bring on the table. And there's a lot of data-led stuff that can say this can be strategic wins for you. Anything on this that you've experimented on?
Not specifically, but I think I look at that metric post facto right now.
I agree with you that it doesn't work.
Yeah. So because what I'm able to see helps in repeating the influences a lot more than a personal experiment for me. If I use it, I call virality index, just a made up math. A simple views I garner versus the follower count of the influencer, and anybody who is punching say above 0.5 on that scale, which primarily means the person is punching significantly above the average over there. And anything I do there is bound to go. So virality does not mean anything. You put a lot of money, anything can go viral. That's the reality.
I think this is a very good point. This goes outside of it, where we advise clients that you can't science virality beyond a point. There is structured virality, which is to say, can I get more views than the number of followers? Fine, that's good. One of the things we tell brands and businesses is always deploy a certain amount of media money to boost the content of your top influencers that you're putting out there. Because we've seen the effective CPVs, which is a blended CPV with organic and paid, can go from a 1 rupee down to 25 paise, with as little as 5% of the actually influencer output that you put gets brought into media. And that's what the power of media does, which is the kind of fun example I like to give is, would you buy a Merc or a car and just drive it around with the amount of petrol the showroom put in, which is organic? Put some more petrol, drive it around town, drive it all over the city, drive it all over the country. And that kind of, I think, and this was also covered in the previous panel. Well, the previous panel stole a lot of our thunder, but we're totally good with that. Sorry. Yeah, you want to add something else?